All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, SAME members. Really glad to have you on the call today. I'm Matt Altman. I'm the current chair of the SAME Key Leadership Development Commission, and we are so excited for this National Leadership Opportunities webinar. It will be recorded, so if you missed part or you want to replay this again, we'll post on the SAME website. You'll be able to watch it later. But we're so pumped to have such a great turnout today. It looks to be a great mix of active SAME members, some new members, young professionals, post-regional and national leaders, hopefully a lot of SAME mentors as well. And based on your inputs leading into this webinar, it looks like there's tremendous interest for all of the key leadership positions that we're going to discuss today. So we just couldn't be more excited about this opportunity. You know, I know 2020 has been a rough year for most of us, but I can assure you that this webinar is the ray of light that you've been looking for. We have an awesome group of dedicated, experienced SAME leaders, and we're all very eager and excited to tell you about our experiences in SAME leadership positions. So I hope you enjoy the next 30 to 45 minutes and feel very comfortable engaging in all of us in productive discussions. This webinar is all about you and providing you the information you need to learn more about these incredible leadership opportunities available in our society. So with that, let's get started. Kathy, if you could switch to the next slide, please. Oh, one back, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong screen. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping to get going. During the presentation, please do keep your mics muted to limit the feedback. If you do have questions, please go ahead and post them in the questions box. For each of the individual position presenters or panelists, we'll be able to have an opportunity for questions specific to those positions. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So ample opportunity to ask your questions, and all of us will be available afterwards for questions as well. The webinar will be recorded, as I mentioned, and it'll be available on the SAME website, so you can refer to it, or if you're a mentor or post leader and want to show this again at a post event in the future, we encourage you to do so. So with that, let's strap in because opportunity awaits. Next slide, please. All right, quick run through of the agenda we're going to talk about today. Talk a little bit about why we're here, because I think it's really important to shape why we're doing this webinar. Talk a little about Mythbusters, which we'll revisit at the end, and hopefully the information that our panelists will provide will help bust some of the common myths and misperceptions about SAME and key leadership positions. And then really the part that we're all excited about is these key leadership opportunity discussions. We have some incredible SAME leaders and volunteers who have filled in all these positions, and they're going to tell you about them from their perspective. Hopefully tell you how they got involved in them, the experience themselves, and the value that they got out of them as well. So that's really the meat and potatoes of this discussion. And then of course we will wrap it up with some question and answer. Next slide, please. All right, so like I mentioned, I wanted to provide a quick background about this webinar and what got us here today. The recently updated 2025 SAME strategic plan had a significant emphasis on developing leaders for the profession. A huge part of that emphasis was a deliberate focus on mentorship and highlighting all the great opportunities for leadership across SAME. Recognizing that as a society, we can do a little bit of a better job informing members about the great opportunities outside the post level, our national president, Heather Wishart-Smith, created the Key Leadership Development Commission last spring and charged us with building the bench of candidates for our key leadership positions. And whenever I mention key leadership positions, president, vice president, regional vice president, elected directors, and the community of interest leaders. And with that, we wanted to help people envision their SAME career paths so we can get people focused on growing into these amazing opportunities. So with that, we formed a diverse group of SAME members with varied leadership and volunteer experience to understand how we're currently recruiting people for those positions and developing leaders, and most importantly, where we could do better. Without getting into all the details of our discussions we've had over the last 5 months, I think the most glaring thing we quickly identified in the group, and we had people of a very diverse SAME experience, young members, older members, and people who had served in every possible SAME position. But what we realized very quickly is that outside of people who have served in national leadership positions, very few people know a lot about the opportunities. And it really wasn't until all of us were personally introduced to SAME national leadership positions by someone that we just happened into that we were able to be brought into it. And then we learned about this entire world of opportunity in SAME. So the challenge for our group, and really the reason why we're here today, is how can we get that word out to all our members about these incredible opportunities and not leave our succession planning and our career development for our key leadership positions. And these are the positions that really keep the society vibrant and moving forward. But how can we not leave that to that chance encounter with that person that says, hey, have you thought about doing this? So that's why we're here today. And, as I've said my entire career, and I've been an SAME member since I was a brand new second lieutenant in the Air Force, but SAME has so many incredible opportunities at the post, the region, and the national levels. We just need leaders at every opportunity to understand what's out there and be recruiters and get the word out, get the value and the word out on that value. So this incredible turnout today is validation that this information is exciting for all of us, and we are super excited to relay it to you. With that, next slide, please. All right, just a few myth busters I want to throw out at the beginning. And again, I hope these presentations dispel some of these things, but we'll recap at the end as a little bit of a test. But here's some things that I know I've heard a lot, and I think a lot of us that have served at the national level have heard a lot in discussions as well. People say, no, there's no way I have the time or experience to be an SAME regional or national leader. I hear that a lot. I also hear that, you have to know somebody to be selected for an opportunity at the regional or national level. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you also hear that there must be some sort of smoke-filled room where SAME regular leaders handpick our regional and national leaders. I also hear that SAME key leadership positions aren't open to young professionals, which we'll definitely dispel. And then people, I think, are really afraid to nominate themselves for these positions as well. So again, those are some myths. Listen to the presentations today, and then we'll cover them at the end to make sure that we adequately dispelled them for you. With that, next slide, please. All right, here's the portion of the webinar you've all been waiting for. We have some amazing leaders throughout SAME, and we're fortunate today to get to hear from 5 of the very best. These incredible human beings and really passionate SAME members have come from all walks of life and industry and came into their leadership roles through different means. Today, each will give you their perspective on getting involved in the regional and national level based on their personal experiences. And as I mentioned before, we'll monitor the chat window and the question box as each person gives their perspective. So feel free to type a question in if you have one. We'll also have the opportunity at the end of the webinar to ask questions of the entire panel. So without further ado, please go to the next slide. We'll talk about the community of interest leader. And it's my pleasure to introduce the first 2 panelists to talk about communities of interest. First off, we have Chief Master Sergeant Adam Boubedy. He currently serves on the National Board of Direction as an elected director. Prior to this position, he has served as post president, chaired the enlisted community of interest, and served in various leadership positions on 3 post boards. Adam is an Air Force senior enlisted leader with 17 years of active duty experience, and he's currently serving as a superintendent of the 627th Civil Engineer Squadron at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington. Joining Adam for this part of the discussion, we have Mr. Ben Matthews. He's an SAME fellow who's been an active member for almost 2 decades. Ben has served in numerous leadership roles on the Young Member Council for 13 years before aging out. Simultaneously, he was the college outreach chair from 2007 to 2011. Ben was also the Dallas Post president and a national elected director, both as a young professional. Most recently, he launched the virtual student chapter and currently serves as a Texoma deputy RVP while wearing multiple hats at the Dallas Post. Ben's currently a federal client manager at Jacobs, supporting the Air Force and Army missions worldwide. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Adam and Ben.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Love being part of this panel and being able to invite more people to get involved with SAME and everything we do. One of the top questions I get whenever I talk about, communities of interest or any kind of leadership position, even just SAME in general, is how do I get involved? I'll tell you how to get involved. Just start. Really just start anywhere and look at what you're passionate about. You can see the list right here, all the SAME communities of interest that we have. And honestly, they build over time. If there's something that you're really passionate about, jump in and see where you can help out. And if you're unsure, if you're really into any of those communities of interest, it's easy. Just jump in. Each one of them has a web page. They all have monthly meetings. There is 0 commitment for you to attend one of those and just listen in and see what they're involved in. For myself, I started out working with the Southern Arizona post, and I ended up on their board of direction as a membership chair. Through that, I ended up going to a post leadership workshop. And just a short plug, if you ever have a chance to attend a post leadership workshop, go ahead and do it. You're going to learn a ton. But I discovered that there was a little niche where it was kind of vacant, right? Enlisted members really had no representation, or it was lacking at the national level and just in the society in general. So teamed up with the young member, now young professional community of interest, and started gaining ground for what the enlisted community of interest could be. And through that experience, we ended up setting up the enlisted COI. I chaired it, and built a big steering committee to go with it. And from there, I am now serving as an elected director and trying to feed back to the community and grow more leaders, right? So for you out there listening, if you're interested, start where you can. You could start small or you can go big. If you want to jump into a COI leader position, start off as a chair elect, take some time, and then set yourself up to be the chair. Or just jump in as a COI member and listen in and help where you can. The other thing you could do is take on a leadership role under that COI chair position and be part of their steering committee to really help be a leader for that community of interest. At the end of the day, I would tell you, contribute where you can and then build on that foundation. Don't let you stop you. Going from there, I would say that when you look at the commitment level, if you're going to be the COI chair, it's a good idea for you to take on the COI chair elect role, kind of shadow the chair for 12 months or so. Typically, you want some time as a chair elect before you sit in the position as the chair. And that is going to be a controlled term. Some of the COIs are different. The chair elect for COI, the enlisted COI, is 12 months prior to the end of term for the current chair. And all the steering committee positions are typically a 12-month position with no real term limit. Keep serving if you can. The next part I want to talk about is the value. The value really goes both ways. What you bring to the society and then what the experience gives back to you. It's truly a one-of-a-kind experience, and it's one of those few things that you could do that the benefit back to you is going to be more than the effort you put in. Some of the biggest things we got feedback from other COI leaders is experience at the national level, and you gain a big opportunity to take all that knowledge back to your post level and really make your posts better. Networking opportunities, both in and outside of the society. Huge developmental platform for your own personal leadership experience. And just a chance to serve the society as a whole and advance all our goals. It's a great stepping stone, the COI chair positions, if you're interested in other national leadership roles. If you're interested in elected director, RVP, or the other positions that we're talking about after this, a great spot to start off on is the COI chair. Ben, what else do you have to add?
Yeah, that was a great overview, Chief Bubade. I really appreciate it. I think the piece that really resonated with me was the passion. As I was involved as a young Air Force officer like Colonel Altman, I realized that there was a lot of things where I felt I wanted to do more. I wanted to see where I could help and make a difference. And that piece for me was getting involved with the young professionals and then quickly moving into the college outreach mission. And I had that passion, and I was really trying to drive that. And really from there, I had the opportunity to lead as a young professional, getting involved with the National Board of Directions, as Chief Bubade talked about. It's something where we're able to run around and come up with these great ideas, supporting the SAME National Strategic Plan and really make a difference. And I continue to get involved with the communities of interest. It's great to see them evolve over time. As you look out there, I know as I saw the list of people who joined, there's over 50 people who joined that are interested in taking a leadership role potentially in these communities of interest. I can't commend you enough on that. I think by joining a steering committee, I just had an individual with me at Jacobs who wanted to get back involved on a national level. I think Joe Manus is on the call. I set him up with Joe on the resilience committee. He's doing a lot of cyber things. He wants to take that technical expertise that he has on his day job and bring it over into the SME side. He's an active young professional at the Houston Galveston Post and is now ready to take that next step at the national level. So those are a couple of other great examples. I know I want to save time for the end and be able to address a couple of those questions, Matt. So you got a couple other people on the agenda here today to talk through that, but I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to talk about what we're having with the community of interest. And it really is where the rubber meets the road for this strategic plan. I mean, it happens at the post level, but I think, you know, the ability to make a difference nationally is right here in the COI. So back to you, Matt.
Outstanding. Thank you both for capturing that. And you hit it, Ben. I mean, just that passion. So before we move on to the next slide, if you can just, everyone just, again, look at that banner there on the communities of interest. Look at the diverse range of topics and interests there. So that should interest anybody. And, you know, I'll turn it back to Ben just real quick. Ben or Adam, so many people on the call want to get involved in the COI. So just in a real quick second, if I'm looking at that and going, I want to get involved in, boom, this committee, what can I do today to get involved in that committee?
I think the example that I just talked through, and really I'll let Adam piggyback on that, is by reaching out to the committee chair. Those committee chairs, each of these committees of interest have a website or, you know, contact info for that community of interest chair. And by sending a quick note, finding out when that monthly meeting is, or bi-monthly, sometimes quarterly, but typically every community of interest is going to meet at least every month or two, and just joining, as Adam talked about, jumping in with that chair. Anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, actually, so what you could do right now, even while this webinar is going on, go to Sammy's webpage, log in, go to your membership profile, go to Join COI, and click the Join COI that you're interested in. That'll put your name on their roster, and you'll start getting emails from that COI chair and that steering committee, and they will invite you to their meetings, so you don't even have to figure it out on your own. And if you like what's going on, keep staying involved, and then ask to volunteer where you can.
Yeah, that's a great point, Adam. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you both. And again, we've got opportunities. If you have questions, please put them in the question box and we can certainly get to them. You know, and a good point before we switch to the regional vice president too, you don't have to go into a community of interest saying, I want to be the chair. I know when I was in charge of the Young Member Council, now the Young Professional COI, it made my day when someone reached out and said, I'd love to get involved. And really my job at that point became to find a position that matched their interests and their availability, and then they were off to the races. So thank you both. You guys absolutely nailed it, and I know that you're both available for questions towards the end. So thank you very much. Kathy, if we can go to the next slide, please. All right, next up we have the regional vice president position, and we're really honored to have Ms. Carrie Ann Williams on the webinar today. Carrie Ann is a SAME fellow as well, and currently the regional vice president for the North Atlantic region. Prior to that position, she served as an elected director and post president for the Baltimore Post. She's also a certified professional services marketer and CEO founder of Andana Consulting. So great to have you on, Carrie Ann.
Thanks, Matt. I didn't list all of the positions I've held with SAME throughout my career, but as an elected director, I was also on the Young Member COI. So, you know, all the things that Ben and Adam talked about are exactly right. It's a great point of entry. It's also a great place to go get, you know, specialty experience in different fields that you might be interested in pursuing in your career. So I became regional vice president for North Atlantic Division this past May, and I've watched some of my close mentors that I've had through SAME be regional vice presidents. So as a non-engineer and non-military, maybe 10 years ago, I never would have thought that I would be a regional vice president. But just like Ben and Adam were saying, asking how you do it, getting involved, getting to know people in that position are really keys to learning more about how to do it. So far this year, regional vice president has looked a little different than it has for previous vice presidents. Part of the regional vice president role is really being engaged with your posts and being that conduit between national, regional, and local membership. So in the past, regional vice presidents did a lot of travel. In North Atlantic, we have 9 posts. So we're going to each of the post meetings, participating in their boards, sharing information from national, and helping them really with their processes, with their strategies, with their membership. So in a virtual environment, it's actually been a little bit more fun because I've been able to participate in all of the posts at some level from a virtual experience. So it's been really engaging to see what every post is doing and how they're navigating all of these things. The other part of the RVP duty is really being present on the national board. And when I first became an elected director on the national board, as I mentioned, I was a young member at that time. So it's fascinating to watch how a board functions for a 30,000 person membership. So I'd always been part of small businesses in my career. So being part of the SAME National Board really gave me exposure to large organizations and all the inner workings of what goes on, how decisions are made. And it also gives you an opportunity to find new mentors, become a mentor, and really be part of some really interesting decisions. As an RVP, you help implement the strategic plan. You're also really involved in awards and recognition programs. You get to give feedback as a member of the national board from your region, from your local posts, and letting national know, what's really impacting the members in your region and what's going on at a local level. So when you see things come out, changes to streamers or changes to recognition programs, as an RVP, you have a really big voice in helping national build those plans and build those programs. Another way that you can also become active as an RVP is to talk to your current RVP about a deputy position. Many of the RVPs have a deputy that supports them, again, when there used to be a lot more travel in visiting the posts and giving out regional coins, in helping with the post recognition programs. So as a deputy, you can shadow the current RVP, support them in all the roles that they need to do, and you learn kind of what the expectations are. The deputy RVP is not as formal of a process as becoming RVP, but you can take on that role and then move into the RVP role after that term ends. So it can be a 2-year term, then you can translate from the deputy into the full RVP role. And that is definitely built on relationships with the current RVP, understanding what the expectations are and building those relationships. The best part for me about the RVP role is really just learning everything about all of the posts in our region and learning more about what's going on in the society. Each post, as you guys know, is a little bit different. So it's really awesome to really interact with the different levels of the posts, to see how they're implementing things and to be a conduit between all of them and help them out with their strategic plans or their membership, or getting speakers, really just navigating for them all the stuff that national has to offer in terms of getting speakers from COIs or sharing best practices for recruiting and membership. We have the time commitment varies from week to week depending on what's going on. So there is definitely a lot of planning and brainstorming and strategizing that goes into it, which is also a really great part of being an RVP, and working with the posts on what they need to have and what they need from national. So if you are already engaged at your post level, you should be part of your RVP's regular ongoing communications. So if you're interested in an RVP role and you're already participating in a local post, or maybe you've been an elected director, talk to the RVP in your region. Let them know you might be interested in a deputy role if that's an opportunity, but also just continue to have a conversation with them about what they're doing, what they might need support with, and then you can learn more about the role and get in line for being considered for the next term of the regional vice president. So Matt, that concludes the RVP chat.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carrie Ann. And if you have questions for Carrie Ann, please continue to put them in the question box. But obviously, RVP is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. I wanted to highlight too, if you haven't looked at the chat box on the call yet, please do so throughout this discussion. There's some great testimonials that people are putting in, and I know Kathy is dropping in from folks who don't have direct access. But I wanted to highlight one here since we're just talking about RVP. From Leanne, I'll go Z. So sorry, I'll just go Leanne Z. But awesome testimony. She said, even if you don't feel like a leader yet, SAME is an excellent leadership training organization. I never saw myself as a leader, but in 8 years, SAME leadership has mentored me from post secretary to post vice president to post president, and now to regional vice president. So just awesome testimonial to what SAME is all about. So please do check out this chat window. It's inspiring. It's exciting to see everybody who's on this call, and then it's really inspiring to see a lot of these testimonials in the chat. So thank you, Carrie Ann. If we can go to the next slide, please. Now we're going to hear about the National Elected Director position, and we're honored to have Angela Nocera on this discussion. Angela is an SAME fellow and serves on the board of direction for the Panama City Post. She's served in numerous post leadership positions as a young professional and worked her way up to the Mobile Post president. She then became engaged at the national level, where she served as an elected director and as vice chair on the college outreach community of interest. Angela is a civil engineer who leads federal programs for Michael Baker International. So thanks for being on today, Angela.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to talk to you about how to become a national elected director for the society, but more importantly, to help you understand who the national directors are. As Nat noted in my intro, I was very post-heavy in terms of engagement in SAME. I started out just volunteering for committees, becoming committee chairs, working my way up to the post board of direction, and then ultimately up to post president for Mobile Post. And when I was done, I kind of was left with this feeling of, well, what's left? What more can I do? And then my RVP at the time, Sal, recommended that I attempt to be national elected director. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. And honestly, I don't know how I thought SAME was organized. But for those of you who may not know or may not have ever thought about it, it's organized like any post or any other government. You have your officers at the top, and then they have a board of direction that works alongside of them. But the board of direction is actually members, it's the officers, it's all the elected directors, RVPs, and the community of interest leaders. And there's a whole bunch of people, and quite frankly, I don't know what's technically board of direction or not, but the important takeaway here is when you are an elected director, the two main things that you do every year are attend the national conferences, which is where we have the board of direction meetings. So you sit in a room with all of these elected directors, the officers of the society, the community of interest leaders, and just a lot of magnificent leaders within the society. And so for days at a time, you are not just helping guide and direct and tweak the direction that the society is going. You have a voice in that. It's kind of like the equivalent of Congress. You talk about everything. You get to learn what's going on at all levels of the organization. And then you also get to understand what's going on with the posts, with the student chapters. And so you're really firing on all cylinders when it comes to SAME. It's where you develop that very big picture understanding of what we're doing and how we operate together. And it's just a phenomenal place to be. I can't explain to you how much brain power is in that room. And when you're not talking SAME for your own personal goals, it gives you a lot in terms of you learn about different leadership styles just by observing the people in the room and how they conduct business. You learn a lot about your actual profession just by being in the room and seeing how people conduct real business. There's a lot of executives, young professionals, and everything in between. And so it's one of my favorite positions I've had within the society. So the official description for the elected director is that you're shaping the present and the future of the society by attending the board of direction meetings, which is what I just talked about at the conferences, engaging in discussions and supporting the SAME strategic plan development and implementation. And that's very important because you know, our organization's pretty fluid, and so we do a great job of charting a course, but constantly revisiting and making sure that the course we charted, maybe we need course correction, or maybe there's just other initiatives we want to add to it. And it's just great discussions to have with people and to be able to be a part of that and help guiding the direction of society. As far as experience, there's very little required. Just be a post leader. And that could be an officer, but it also could be a committee chair. And there are a lot of committee chairs within posts. A lot of people don't even think that being a committee chair is a big leadership position, but it really is. And then you can be on a community of interest. Like we spoke about earlier, you don't have to lead the community of interest, just be on it. And really the experience requirement, what we're looking for here is just people who want to participate and who want to be part of the discussion and part of the guidance of the society. As far as the level of commitment, it's a 3-year term. With the board of direction meetings, it's twice a year. So basically you get to JETC and you get to SBC a day or two early to make sure you can sit in on these full day meetings. And the meetings are intense, but they are phenomenal for all the reasons I just stated. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It's a very, you have a large responsibility, but in terms of time commitment, as long as you can get to these meetings and sit in the room for the day, that's really it. There's not a lot in between. We do have a lot of task force and working groups, and what you'll find is when you're sitting in a meeting is that you will be asked to be part of a task force group or a working group or maybe even a community of interest. That actually happened to me. I honestly didn't even understand how the community of interest operated, but through being an elected director, I got heavily engaged. And then when I was finishing my term as an elected director, I actually transferred over and became a community of interest leader. So there's a lot that comes out of it. And the opportunities to get engaged in other positions during or after being an elected director really are endless. Value and benefits, I'm actually going to come back to that one. And then how to volunteer for this particular position. This is super simple. Nominations are due December 1, and all you have to do is click on the link on this slide here or go to our website. You can self-nominate. Your post president can nominate you, any BOD member, national officers, and even members of the SAME Foundation Board. Getting back to the value and benefits, yes, you have the opportunity to serve on a board of direction for a 28,000 member society, and that's cool. I'm not going to lie. It was really cool to sit there and have your little name tag and say, yeah, I'm here, I'm doing this, this is great. But the professional development and the networking is amazing. And unintentionally, when I became an elected director, I ended up being in a position where I was transferring from one company to another. I had a lot of things going on in my personal professional life. but SAME was my constant. And the most interesting thing that happened was I was at one company working in a federal program, and I was transferring to Michael Baker, which is where I am now. And my new position had nothing to do with the federal marketplace. But by being an elected director, I had to attend JETC and SBC. And I had Michael Baker commit to just let me finish my term, go to these conferences, and they did. And through that, I got heavily engaged with Michael Baker's federal team, who was always at these conferences. And in doing that, the entire trajectory of my career at Michael Baker completely changed. And so instead of the position I was originally hired to be, over the course of the past few years, I've actually morphed into, we have a very robust federal program in our Southeast region, and now I'm the lead for that program. So I have a lot to thank SAME for helping me with that, but it's just a testimony to the power of the networking and the leadership, and all of the tools that I needed to have the position I have came through SAME, but the opportunity to have this career, oddly enough, came through SAME as well. So I encourage anyone to nominate for this position, whether it's self-nomination or have a post leader support you in that. It's one of the best ways to learn about the society and to become a bigger part of it.
Outstanding. Thank you, Angela. You covered it absolutely well. The only thing I will foot stomp is at least one national elected director every single year will be a young professional. So don't think you're too young or inexperienced to put your name in the hat. As Angela said, just click that link and sign up. You will absolutely not regret it based on what she said. And then look in the chat window too. There's some other, I saw Nadia Turk in there, Carrie Ann Williams and others have talked about what an incredible opportunity it is to be an elected director. So thank you very much, Angela. We appreciate it. Just to put something that Kathy just put into the chat, if you have your hand raised for a question, please just keep it up. And then when we get to the Q&A in just a minute, we will call on you. Otherwise, you can type your question as well. We go to the next slide, please. All right, with our final two positions we wanted to cover today before the wrap up and the Q&A, we are really honored to have Mr. Sal Najimian. He's an SAME fellow, and he served as the 98th national president of the society. Prior to that position, he served as national vice president, regional vice president, post president, among numerous other SAME leadership positions. Sal is a retired Air Force colonel who is currently the chief executive officer of the Matrix Design Group. Sal, always great to have you on, sir.
Thanks, Matt. You're doing a fantastic job in this group, so thanks for that. I also found it very interesting in your introduction where you described the commission that's been assembled with lots of young members, and then I think your tendency was about to say and old ones as well, but you went with older. So, and I know I represent that member, so I appreciate for being by named, singled out in your introduction.
Definitely older, but yeah. Not in your introduction too. Sal is the permanent young professional. He's the forever young professional in the society.
Thank you. I was going to go ahead and add that, but since you've added it, I'll keep going. And Angela, you're welcome for all the success you've enjoyed as a result of me nominating you. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
I also found your comment very interesting, Angela, when you said that the board of direction was much like Congress. The place I'm going to deviate from that is, unlike Congress, we actually get things done. And we get things done in an incredibly timely manner and for the best interest of the society. And every position that has been briefed up until now, I could argue builds to the one we're going to talk about here. And I'm going to be very brief because there's very few things that haven't been said by the fantastic speakers before me. You can read the words that are on the slide, you know, the description of the position. It's pretty obvious as a national vice president, or eventually if you end up in the president track, it's all about vision, strategic plan, linkages, all vertically and horizontally throughout the organization, which is really exciting. But it comes from the same things that you heard Adam and Ben and Carrie Ann talk about before me, and that's energy, passion, and things like that. Let's not forget, and I don't think the comment was made yet in this call, we are an all-volunteer society. That's it. Every one of us, every person that has spoken so far, every one of you in the chat bar other than the national staff, you're all volunteers and you're all here because you want to be. And I would argue that these last two positions that we're talking about here are kind of the crown jewel in that process. The experience required is very simple. If you've made it through the fellows process, then you are technically eligible to hold one of these jobs, and there's several of them up there. In terms of the key experiences, as Matt described in my introduction, and I think some of the others that are on the call, I think it's important that you've had stops along the way. I think it's important that you've done stuff at a post level. Multiple posts is even better. Maybe dip to toe into regional type activities. And then, of course, if you had an opportunity to be on a national community of interest or an elected director or anything like that, that's always beneficial, because at the end of the day, the expectations of the vice president and eventually that president sequence, president-elect, president, immediate past president, are to be able to take the issues and challenges that we are faced with today and into tomorrow, and then apply them through a filter that has hopefully been fine-tuned as a result of all those other stops along the way. So even though experience required is simply fellow, there's a lot of other things that I think would be incredibly important to being successful in that role. On the private side of it, it's also important that you are operating at some type of executive level. And that comes back primarily to the fact that one of our most enduring principles, one of the foundational elements of our society, is that industry government engagement. And to be able to engage at the highest levels with government is important, that you're able to operate in that same space on the private sector, so that when you speak for the society, and it's done in a way that is understood and respected by our government partners. So couple of those very important things are going to be utilized in the selection process. In terms of commitment, the vice president commitment honestly is very manageable. As it states here on the slide, 200 to 300 hours, and these are real numbers. I went back and I polled, I want to say 5 or 6 years worth of presidents and vice presidents to see what everyone put into the effort, because everyone's going to be different. Everyone's situations are different, but they averaged into that ballpark. So if you're talking about that's easily 10, 15% of your time could be spent in that vice president role. The president position, this is where Matt's mythbuster, I think, falls apart. This is on that first question of I don't have the time. This is one where I'm going to say you have to make the time. The national president role over 3 years, so president-elect, president, immediate past president, will probably involve somewhere around 2,000 hours over 3 years. So you are literally talking a man-year of effort spread out over a 3-year period. As you can see, it's kind of a ramp up, high point, and then a ramp down on the backside as immediate past president. And frankly, it'll again be what you want to put into it. In my time, and we could get 5 other very active immediate or past presidents, they can all give you their perspectives. It's going to be whatever you decide you want to invest. I wanted to get out and see as many posts and meet as many people as humanly possible. And in my 1 year in the job as your national president, I got to 24 distinct post and or regional events. That's basically one every 2 weeks. Sometimes it'd be in conjunction with something else. Sometimes I'd be able to tie a business-related reason to be somewhere. But it's what I wanted to do. And being able to get out there, listen to the issues, bring them back, get them as ground truth, and then utilize that to then shape where we were going next. Because I had the honor of then moving on in my past president time to then help shape the strat plan for 2025. So being able to take all those experiences and then still put them to value, put them to use. In terms of value and benefit, probably one of the most exciting and valuable experiences of my entire professional career, and that includes 24 years in uniform. The ability to represent our society, which I firmly believe is the best professional society out there, and to be the one that gets to be the face of something like that is just incredibly exciting. And then again, the people that you meet along the way and the great work that you get to do. From a personal perspective, my company obviously gained from that as well, as yours would. Because it's, you get introduced in your SAME capacity, but right behind that is the company that is giving up a lot of time and treasure to allow you to be part of that. So in exchange for that, you get an opportunity to put your company front and center, and I think that's important. Again, nomination procedures, just like what everybody else said. Anyone can do it. You can self-nominate right now if that's something you're interested in doing. So Matt, I'll stop there so we have time for Q&A. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. You absolutely nailed it. And folks, yeah, 1 December, you got plenty of time to complete these applications and self-nominate or be nominated for these incredible positions. But thank you very much, Sal, and really all of our panelists for telling your SAME stories and providing details on so many of our incredible leadership opportunities. If I can go to the next slide, please, Kathy. All right, so hopefully we tick through most of these myth busters. I'll just touch on them quickly because I really want to get to your questions. Sal talked about the time or experience for a position. I'd say that's absolutely false. And really, depending on your interest and availability, we have a position for you at the national level. If you're not clear after this call what that might be, let me know. I'd happily help you navigate that decision. You have to know somebody. Note, the nomination selection process is fair and transparent. And really, if you can tell from the chat box right now, we celebrate interest from a broad range of SAME volunteer leaders. Really, for those of us who have served, excuse me, served in these positions, we just want to get the word out. And we're excited when you know about these and want to participate as well. I think we talked to the smoke-filled room. You know, the society is dedicated to developing leaders, and we're really focused, and we're trying to promote a fair, transparent selection process. But we really do need everybody's help to make sure that every single SAME member knows what incredible opportunities there are out there. Young professionals, like I said before, there will be one elected director at least that is a young professional under 40 years of age. This year, I believe there's 2 on the last year's panel that are young professionals. And you can serve in any position as a young professional. So don't let that limit your vision for where you want to go. And of course, anybody can self-nominate for any of these positions. You just have to take that action and just let folks know that you're interested. All right, next slide, please. One more message real quick before we get to the questions. I really just wanted to take a moment while we're on this call talking the subject to thank the members of the Key Leadership Development Commission. We're not done. We're going to keep this going, but all these incredible people, we're excited to join this effort and really just more excited to find ways to let all SAME members know about the amazing opportunities there are in the society. Our effort will continue, but I want to make sure that I thank these folks while we're on this call. And with that, if we can go to the next slide, please. All right, question opportunity now. And if I can open it up and perhaps turn it over to Kathy to direct me to folks who have questions.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to try to unmute our attendees. We have a couple people with their hands up. So if you don't have a question, please keep yourself on mute. So it looks like Jeff Duplantis had a question. Jeff, would you like to pose your question? I'm not sure if he's able to come off of mute. Nope, he does not have a question. Okay.
Kathy?
Yes.
Oh, this is Jeff Leonard. I heard you say Jeff. I didn't catch the last name.
Jeff Duplantis, but Jeff Leonard, do you have a question?
Well, just a quick comment to I'm the chairman of the K-12 STEM COI chair, COI, and I just wanted to reiterate what they said. So much there, and as a minimum, join those webinars, join those calls, see what they're doing. The K-12 STEM COI is presenting some of our partners. If you're into Discovery or Math Counts or whatever, and if someone at your post is interested in doing STEM outreach locally and doesn't really know how, that's what the webinars are all about. You get involved just attending those webinars, and then maybe you join the steering committee to help design those webinars, and then maybe eventually you're on that leadership team or chair of that COI. It's a stepping stone process, but I highly encourage everyone to at least click that button on the SAME site that says I'm interested in this COI or that one, and just get involved at any level. Thanks.
Okay, I think we have a question from Patrice Melanson. Patrice, if you can take yourself off mute, you can ask your question. Okay. Doesn't appear that she can take herself off mute. Patrice, if you still have a question, go ahead.
Yep. So it just took a minute for the unmute to happen.
Sure.
So question, I guess, sort of for Sal. So I am contemplating a national position that I'd like to get nominated for. I will be retiring mostly fully in February. Is that a detractor? I mean, I'll have more time, but I will not necessarily be working in the industry per se.
Yeah, so the short answer, Patrice, is no, that's not a detractor at all. I mean, obviously, you're bringing in a treasure trove of experiences, having both been, active as well as working in the private sector, having served in multiple different capacities. That brings an extraordinary amount of value. And again, the position you'd be applying for would start several months after that. And it's typically a 2-year, assuming it's a VP position you're looking at. And who knows what's going to happen during that period of time. So I would absolutely encourage you to go through that and call me offline. You've got my number, and we can continue to talk about that.
Okay, thanks.
So the next question comes from Chris Peck. Chris, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sweet, awesome. Thanks for that brief. I mean, sorry, I apologize, but I came a little late, so I might have missed this. You might have answered this question already, but throughout the selection process, is there a specific area that you guys look at for specific roles for certain positions, whether it is leadership, work experience, or etc.?
Hey, Chris, are you interested in a specific position, or are you just talking about in general?
I am interested in a specific position, but I mean, I guess the question is for the broad audience, so for general, I guess.
Sure. Well, the beauty of it is, if we're talking about elected director, vice president, or president, those are elected positions within SAME. So your experience will go out and be part of the voting process for the society to vote on those positions. I would say from a COI perspective, and I'll defer to any other panelists too if you have a perspective, but my biggest thing is are you interested and are you passionate about what you're doing? And then I like to bring in a broad range of experience at the post level and in industry and in the military to just really diversify that experience and that opinion for whether it's a COI, at the RVP level as well. There's a wide range of experience. So just the fact that you're interested and you want to step up and do it, I think is the most important thing. And I think most people on this call would realize that whatever experience you're bringing in conjunction with your passion for SAME is going to be perfect for these positions. Anybody else on the panel want to take a stab at it?
Hey, Matt, this is Adam. I can kind of throw something in there. So as a COI chair, and I would say any COI chair, no one's going to turn away a volunteer. It's just not going to happen. Now, some of the other panelists kind of talked about it. We can help direct volunteers towards where their passion lies and create positions within the steering committee to help enable you to do what you want to do and help out everybody. The other positions, going through the elected director process myself, your experience is going to help build a resume for your candidacy, but it's going to be up to the society and everybody who votes on if that's what gets you in there.
Yeah, great points, Adam. And Chris, great question. And if you want to talk it offline too, I'd be more than happy to talk about what you're interested in and your SAME career path from here. So thanks for the question.
Yeah,
Kathy,
thank you so much.
Are there any other questions in the chat?
In the chat, we did have a couple questions. We have somebody else with their hand up, but I'll go to the chat. And I believe I answered them, but I'll let you know what they were. So somebody asked about if the travel was funded by SAME. I believe that was in response to Sal's comment about having so much travel while he was president. So Sal, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure, Kathy. When I was in that role, Matrix is a small company, so we don't necessarily have the pockets that maybe some of the larger firms do with SAME. So I had a deal with our national leadership team that I had a travel budget. It wasn't enough to cover all 24 of those visits I said. So as I mentioned, I was able to just parlay a significant amount of my work-related activities into other events. So if Matrix had me in San Antonio because I had work with AFCAC or something like that, I would try to schedule that in conjunction with maybe a San Antonio event with their post. Similarly, Northern Virginia, DC, Tidewater area, any places that I could be for work, I would do it on that nickel or dime, so to speak, and then the balance I would basically give the bill to SAME. SAME is wonderful about it. Again, you've got time because you got your year as president-elect. As you're getting ready to be president, you don't need to travel nearly as much, and then it could just be a budgetary item that could be put in there. And again, we recognize the value of the all-volunteer leadership, and SAME has put resources against that.
Hey, Matt, one thing I would add real quick is for those that are in the elected director type of position or other national positions, for the board meetings that take place twice a year, as you see in the chat window, there will be oftentimes stipends for military members as well. So something to bring up related to that.
Yeah, that's a great ad. You know, in my 3 years as an elected director and then 2 years as a young member chair, I think all 5 years of that, SAME was able to pay for me to go to JTC and Small Business Conference to attend those board meetings. So great point there, Ben, as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, for private side, there's also, and not just for private side, but for elected directors and with the conference travels, you get the room blocks and the registrations are discounted. So it's not the typical cost that you would see if you weren't attending those meetings. A lot of companies on the private side will cover that cost, but whether or not they do, I would encourage anyone to think about the value that being in the room with all of these people just brings to your own career. Like I said, it drastically changed the trajectory of my career. And if I had to go back and make the decision to do it, and I was told my company wouldn't pay for it, I would find a way to make it happen. It's just a phenomenal opportunity, and a lot of times we get caught up in, you know, can I expense this or not? But sometimes it is really worth the personal investment.
Well said, Angela.
Awesome, Angela. Thank you.
We do have one more hand up. Jim Wink, if you'd like to take yourself off of mute.
Yes. Quick question. I think early on in the communities of interest portion, Chief Master Sergeant mentioned that he saw that they were missing a community, I think the enlisted community. How do you go about if there's a community that you're interested in that isn't listed, if you want to establish a community of interest?
Hey, that's a really great question. And I could certainly give you the whole story offline about it, but what happened was while I was at the Post Leaders Workshop, you know, I ended up talking to Joe Schrodel, and he mentioned that he was great to see an enlisted member because we really don't have representation very often. And I found out that there was the young member, now young professional community of interest. And I was like, okay, well, at least I fit in here. So I started getting involved with them, and just getting that exposure at the national level helped me see the way that I can advocate for having an enlisted community of interest. And just over time, networking with the right people, figuring out the process, and going to the big conferences like JETC and SBC, we were able to lay the groundwork. To be honest, getting it from ground zero to where it is now was about, it took about 4 years of, you know, gathering the right people, getting the right support, building a charter, Some of them happen faster than others. I mean, you look at credentialing, right? So that started out as a elected director task force led by Neil Wright as the Warrior Transition Task Force, and it turned into a COI, and it's had some struggles recently, and it's now a position on the young professionals community of interest. So things shift based on how much support we can give it and how much interest it has. But if it's something you're interested in and you start networking with the groups that are available, we can rally enough support to turn it into a community of interest that has its own steering committee.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ben, were you jumping in to add to that as well?
Just real quick, I know we're getting short on time, but I would say like another example of that was our virtual student chapter. Some didn't really exist. We were trying to put something together. We ended up nesting it under the college outreach community of interest. But if there's a gap that you think is aligning to our SAME strategic plan, Jim, just keep pushing and bring it through to many people on this call, and we'll make it happen.
Great. Thanks.
Great add, Ben. And as Ben alluded, we are getting to the end of our time here. But hey, I know I can speak for everyone on this call that if you have other questions or want to have follow-up discussions, we are absolutely game for those. We'll be thrilled to hear from you. Just let us know offline. Let Kathy know if you want to talk to one of us specifically. We all love talking about SAME, and we're all passionate about leadership in SAME, and we want to introduce that to as many people as possible. So please let us know, and I know that we'd all be happy to continue this conversation. And with that, before we lose everybody on this call, I'd really like to thank all of our incredible panelists today. Thanks for your time, your experience, and your passion for developing SAME leaders. Of course, I'd like to thank Ms. Kathy Off for making this webinar happen today, as well as all she does to support SAME with the national office team. We are so fortunate in SAME to have an incredible national office as the backbone of the society. And if I can, just leave you with 2 foot stompers, because I sit in on a lot of these webinars, and you always have to have a takeaway. So I've got 2 for you. If you're an SAME member who liked what you heard today and you think you might want to step into these positions, first off, do it. But if that's you, please tell somebody. Tell somebody today that you are interested in one of these positions. Reach out to one of us on the call. Tell your post president. Tell your employer. Let somebody know that you're interested. Tell them today. Take that action to do it today, and we will absolutely make it happen. And based on all the value you heard on the call today, you will not regret that decision to raise your hand. It will open you up to a world of opportunity that you didn't know was possible in SAME. So please tell somebody today. And on the other side of that, if you're a post, a regional, or national leader listening to this call, hopefully you're also mapping out your SAME career up to that national president position. But please share this information with somebody. Perhaps share it with your post, show this webinar or post event, or find an active volunteer in your post and encourage them. Perhaps somebody that you mentor, pay it forward and encourage them to step up into one of these roles. Don't worry about losing volunteers to the national level. I guarantee you that if you open them up to opportunity at the national level, it will exponentially increase the opportunity and the exposure for your post. So with that, I hope this was a bright spot of your 2020. And I really look forward to seeing tons of new, excited faces stepping up and killing it in our incredible SAME leadership opportunities. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again to all of our panelists for being a part of this and for being just incredibly passionate leaders in SAME. And just one more time, if you have any questions or are interested at all, please reach out, let us know. We are more than happy to continue this discussion. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you all.